Hey wire monkeys, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. This week we're talking fiber optics. Fiber optics with the fiber nerds. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, technicians, project managers, estimators, business owners, ICT customers. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms like Apple, Google, or Stitcher, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? And if we're not a 5-star rated show, let us know what we can do to make this a 5-star rated show. Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? I do a live stream on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD, well, that would be me, your questions on installation, certification, design, project management, estimation, even career path. But I can hear you now, but Chuck, I'm driving my truck at 6 p.m. I could go get into an accident. That's okay. I record them, and you can access all of them at letstalkcabling.com. And finally, while this show is free and will always remain free, if you find value in this content and you would like to help support this show, would you click on that QR button right there or scan that QR code right there? You can buy us a cup of coffee. You can even schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with us, after hours, of course. So as I said, we are talking fiber this week. There's a new channel that's out, relatively new channel that's out, called the Fiber Nerds. Now, just because the channel's new doesn't mean that they don't know fiber optics. So I've watched a few of their videos. As a matter of fact, one of the guests has already been on the show before, so you might recognize them. So we're going to talk fiber optics, and let's get to know the Fiber Nerds. Welcome to the show, Fiber Nerds. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Doing well. How's it going, Chuck?
Doing fantastic. How about you, Aaron?
I'm doing great, man. Pleasure to be back on the show with you, man.
It's always a pleasure to have you back on. So I brought you guys on because I have some fiber questions. I could answer them, but I'm also a firm believer in collaboration. And since you guys are the Fiber Nerds, I had to bring you guys on. But so for the people in the industry or my audience who may not have heard of you yet, why don't you each of you just kind of give me the 30-second introduction, who you are, what certifications you have, and why should they listen to you? We'll start off with you, Irving.
Sure thing. Hello, everyone. My name is Irving Perez. For my certifications through the Fiber Optic Association, I am a certified cable premises technician, as well as a fiber optic technician, and a fiber optic testing specialist. Through the Fiber Broadband Association, I am a fiber to the home professional. Through the Python Institution, I am an entry-level Python programmer, and I recently got my CompTIA Network Plus about a year ago or so. As far as my experience or so, I've been a fiber optic install technician for 4 years. That's how I started my career in ICT. Juggled being an outside plant assistant manager and a fiber design engineer for about two years or so. And then over the past year, I've been more deep diving into data center, installation and just being a data center technician.
Very cool. Very cool. Aaron, how about you, my friend?
So I got the certs that Irving has, minus the Python one, but I've been a Python programmer for 20 years probably at this point. I got my Bixby, OSP, and DCDC, working on my RCDD still, don't promise you. And fiber-wise, one of the most, set of the most proud certs I have is the Certified Optical Network Associate and Engineer. And we'll talk about that probably a little bit more later. But yeah, so I've been in telecom for about 8 years, in OSP with Irving for about 7 of those, and love fiber so much I convinced my wife to let me run it all throughout our house.
One of the things that kind of cracks me up, I'm all over social media, and I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I'm everywhere, and
Yes, you
I
are.
love when people post up something, and then I love going to read the comments. And sometimes some people say, "Oh, just run fiber." You guys will probably disagree with me because you're the fiber nerds, but fiber's not always the right answer.
No.
There's sometimes where fiber's just not. Matter of fact, that's actually one of the questions tonight that on the live stream. So let me ask you guys this, and I'll let you decide who you want to do this. What prompted you guys to get into making social media content, being YouTube content creators?
Yeah, I'll sort of take charge from my perspective on this one. Honestly, it started with trying to find a creative outlet. We are very two creative individuals outside of ICT and work in general, but as we became more familiar with designing infrastructures, we were like, okay, there's a lot of creativity, sort of art that is involved with engineering and design. And as we were learning and going through that, it was sort of clicked to us like, why can't we sort of use this, a platform to also teach others, especially reaching out to, a younger generation, a lot of, more people around my age group. The same way that Eron sort of mentored me through those 7 years that we've worked together, and still, moving forward, trying to do that, through the YouTube platform or social media platforms for others.
Eron, what prompted you to get into this whole crazy thing called content creation?
I think the biggest motivation for me was that I didn't want people to have to struggle as much as I did trying to get a foothold, and it's definitely getting better. When I started trying to figure this stuff out in 2016, didn't know what the Fiber Optic Association is. My father-in-law is actually a Bixby RCDD, but that's all I knew about Bixby. Especially from the service provider side, I say that all the time. There's a lot of, network engineering. I tell the people, you can walk into any bookstore and pick up Cisco, training things. But a book on any telecom topic, for the most part, is such a specialized thing. It's like we hide this information in a lot of ways. It's a very secretive industry in that respect. I felt like an obligation to try to, chart a course for newcomers, and, mentoring Irving and a couple of my other colleagues, just kind of, what, maybe I should start to just record some of this stuff. So sometimes I didn't even have to repeat myself, and so I could teach myself when I forget it too. So,
and let's be honest, the subject matter of ICT, it's not a thrilling subject in book form. Okay?
No.
Yeah.
I've read a couple
Sleepers.
books on that. I've read the TDM. I'm on my fourth time reading that thing, and I'm telling you, I just want to bat my head against the wall sometimes because you read it and you read it and you read it. And it's just,
Yes.
And people like to learn through all of their senses. So hearing, touch, eye, the whole yards. So let me ask you, which one of you guys is more of the installer, and which one of you is more the manager?
I'll take. Don't worry, I'll take that mantle. I'm definitely more of the installer, just because of, that's where I got my foothold in the industry. That's where I started out. Before that, I was doing a lot of customer service job positions. I was about 21 during the time, so still very young stepping in. Had no idea what fiber was, telecommunications. Barely knew what a router was at the time. And sort of just took it, as a risk in a sense, and developed through it. And I guess after the fourth year, I was sort of matching Eron more on the design side, but definitely starting out more on the technical install side. I'm the one.
Right. Well, they say
I just got
once you
thrown
do-
into it as a manager. Like, you run OSP now.
That's right. That's
do you
right.
have-
No idea.
Do you have any installation experience, Eron?
Back when I was 21, in 2001, I was an IT manager for a library. I ran cable. I built the LAN. I managed the desktops, the servers, all that stuff. And then I got out of IT when I was 24, and I hadn't really touched it, beyond programming. So it wasn't until I got back into telecom where I got back and went in deep from there.
Right. So what kind of things do you talk about on your YouTube channel?
Well, go ahead. We talk about all things telecom. inside plant, outside plant, the design aspects, data centers. There's a lot to telecom that people don't actually realize. I have just a small pitch that telecom used to be where all of the exciting tech came from. The internet, Unix, some of the most core programming languages out of AT&T, Bell Labs. That's where the Silicon Valley really started. And but then after that, it just became, oh well, that's who carries my phone and my broadband service, and it's really lost its luster. But there are so many exciting things, and we want to try to cover them all, and just get people excited and aware of not just what the utility of this service is, but to get the next generation excited. That's the mission.
And one large thing.
Go ahead.
And one large thing that we try to portray on our channel and with our content is our own personal journeys. To make it relevant to those that are watching, that they also can follow either the same footsteps or similar footsteps to achieve, success, or try to achieve success in this profession as well.
Yeah, one of the things I learned about doing content creation, people will argue with you about what codes say, what standards will say, but they can't argue your personal journey. Yeah. So if you stick with your personal journey, they can't argue that. They just really, really can't. All righty, so let's get on with some fiber questions. You guys ready?
Oh, all right.
All right. So
let's see.
We'll start with you first, Mr. Irving. What are some best practices that you could recommend for somebody who's new to fiber installation?
Oh, the topic of the century for me would be, especially if you're either new into installation, especially with fiber, documentation. Whether it's greenfield, brownfield, no matter what it is, your first day on the job, whether you're doing a survey for the job moving forward, make sure you're taking pictures, make sure you're taking notes. Even if you're just a tech, you're not supervising anything and you want to have your own personal documentation notes that you can let her, reference to or refer to it. It just makes everything from the beginning of the install to just maintenance over the overall plant so much easier. And if you start early in your journey, making that a good habit of yours, it'll take you a long way.
And that's one of the things we struggle at with as technicians, because I remember when I used to work for a company many, many years ago, we started tackling on tasking everybody's tasks, on the timesheets and stuff, so that way we can put it in the project management process, so we can compare what the estimate was compared to what the actual results were. And I tell you, techs would scream, "You want me to what? Why can't I just put down I work for 8 hours?" No. How many hours did you pull? How many hours did you terminate? How many did you terminate? So documentation is it's one of those pet peeve things in our industry that it's a necessary evil. Techs don't like to do it, but it'll save you in the long run. Aaron, what are your thoughts? What's the best practice for somebody?
Get trained early. Get your techs trained day one so that they're getting in the good habits, good workmanship, as soon as possible. Documentation, good workmanship, I'd say confidence to really roll up your sleeves and do the job. The production levels go up so much faster. Yeah, so I'm a huge advocate of training people as soon as possible, instead of tribal knowledge kind of passing down like some kind of ceremonial thing. Yeah.
Hey, just because that's the way your granddad did it doesn't mean it's the way that you should do it, right? Exactly. one of the Facebook groups I'm in, it's old Ma Bell guys, and I'm not an old Ma Bell guy, but we walked a lot of the same avenues together. And somebody put a post on there, fiber's the same as it was back in the 70s. I'm like, nanofiber, hollow core fiber, right? VCSELs, fiber. It's rudimentarily it's the same, but it's evolved a lot. It's not the same. So, no. And so the way that the first fiber connector I learned how to terminate was a 2-part epoxy and had this big old machine that looked like a big record player with 2 big discs. And it took you 15 minutes to polish one connector. And now with the fusion splice-on connectors, the mechanical connectors, if it's taking you more than a minute,
Yeah.
you're milking it. You're milking it, right? So it's come a long way. It's the same thing with the troubleshooting and stuff like that. And I like the fact that you kind of keyed in on training, right? So what are some of the best ways we can educate the upcoming generation on how to use fiber?
Yeah, well, at least, I can take a quick reference to this. For me, one of the main things that, helped me learn fiber in general is just labbing, getting hands-on experience with this stuff. Yeah. From preparation to the splicing to, the installation or whatever it may be, just having not only, the literature to reference, the active duties of your job function, for it, but to go back to a labbing environment where you can make mistakes, where you can, experiment, wonder, let your curious mind sort of take a hold as you're learning. That's just going to escalate just how far you can go in your experience and your comfortability and confidence, sort of like what Eron touched on. If you're new to the job, but you labbed a couple of times already, 6-7 times, your first day out, you're going to have at least, okay, I'm used to this. I've seen this before. It might not be in the same environment, but I can relate to this instead of just sort of being fed to the wolves, I would say.
Yeah, do not learn how to use OTDR on a midnight outage.
No.
No?
Please no.
No? That's not the best time? No, really? No?
Yeah, trauma train them. That's the way to go.
So, I believe 100%. Most technicians, male or female, most technicians are tactile learners. They learn when they put their hands on stuff. But let's be honest, let's say we're talking to somebody who's listening to my show right now, who right now they're flipping hamburgers at the local burger joint. They don't get a chance to play with fiber. So what are some good, this one's for you, Eron. What are some good resources that they might be able to watch, listen, learn that might be, like, they don't have $2,500 to go to a Bixie course right now. Maybe in the future, but right now they want to learn more about fiber. So when they go do that interview, the guy's not talking another language to them.
Yep. And for that, we heartily recommend go straight to the FOA, Fiber Optic Association. FiberU is a free online learning portal that has access to a ton of YouTube videos, and as well as instructions that you can start to build your own small kits. And that's one of the things that Irving and I are trying to do, make it more accessible. The commodification of fiber optic tools and materials is incredible. We're continue to be surprised. I mean, you can get a fusion splicer for $500. Now, it ain't a great one, but it'll burn a fiber, and you'll learn how to splice, And the more that we can get those types of tools and materials in the hands of people that want to use them, along with affordable and free materials like the FOA stuff, and then conversations like this from people that, particularly like Irving, are younger, showing that they're picking this stuff up. It's rewarding work and a good livelihood, and is building the infrastructure of the future. I think that combination, is going to get us there.
Irving, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's so weird, because just the age difference between me and Eron, his knowledge of tech and just my sort of foothold over the last couple of years, it sort of came down to, like you said, Chuck, we're very tactile when it comes to being technical, but also using the skills that are personal to you, your own personal skills. Are you analytical? Are you creative? Where can your personality sort of infuse with the technical work that you're doing? And that's sort of, I don't know how to sort of put that together.
Well, it's an effective method.
Yeah, it's an effective method, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Are either one of you guys, or have either one of you guys taken a Bixie course on fiber, the Bixie technician course, or the installer?
No.
Not yet, no.
I would love to do a show about that. I need to find somebody who's has their CFOT and their installer F, and have them compare and contrast this class. That'd be great content. Or maybe I should just shell out $2,500 and go take that class, even though I don't need the certification. But I should take that class and then go take a CFOT class or CFOT class, and then I can do it. But yeah, that requires money, doesn't it? Oops. Hey, love, I need $2,500 to go take this class. Aren't you already certified? Yeah, I am.
Recertified, yeah.
Well, hey, if I tell them the podcast is paying for it, I don't get an argument out of her.
There you go.
But there
I
you
got to
go.
remember that one.
So let's go back to you, Irving. All right, so you're an installer, you're out in the field, and sometimes customer comes to you and says, "Look, we want to put in a fiber optic cable. Before you can turn the stuff over to a designer." What are two things that you really want to consider when you're trying to select what kind of fiber optic cable?
The first thing I'll try to consider is the scope of whatever project you're having. Like, granted, everyone talks about fiber being for long distance runs or whatever it may be, or for high speeds, but it all depends on the scope of the customer or the client and what they're trying to do. Another thing, if you're going to be beyond that point and you have a scope and you're sort of looking for it, you have to look at just like the cable jacket ratings, the type of fibers you want, as well as budget. I'll throw that one in there, because if the splicing cost is way too much, then you might want to consider something that's connectorized, or if you're doing higher count cables, ribbon type of cable would be a nice selection. So it all depends on the general scope of the project, and then everything sort of falls under through there. But for the technical side, especially for installation, just making sure that the fiber of the cable is rated for wherever you're pulling it. Whether you need a plenum rated cable or it's fire retardant for the risers and stuff like that. That's very essential, at least to me, when I'm looking at it from an installer and a design perspective.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, what's your input?
I would say figure out why you can't use single mode. Because
are you the guy on the internet all the time saying fiber, fiber, fiber?
It's his ghost account. Yeah.
I'm the poster child, I guess. But yeah, the reasons for putting in multi-mode at this point, is really diminishing. And the argument has always been, price, price, price. But actually, single mode fiber is actually cheaper to begin with. It has been the electronics historically, but along with, like I said, the commodification of everything right now, the electronics, it's just as economical. Plus, you have the future proofing of the single mode plant. So I would say that would be one of the first things that I would bring up. Besides Irving's great points, of course. And other than that, what kind of speeds do you need for that? So there are new generations of cable. You've talked about hollow core, coming out. There's multi-core coming out. There's Z-bland, which is much more purified glass. There are stock market, high frequency trading companies that are wrecking out 10-year-old plant because it's not fast enough anymore. And in the world of data centers and things like that, like terabit speeds and things like that, yeah, like you need the newest, latest, and greatest for those applications. So. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So for those who may not know, I know the answer here, but I want you to say it. With copper cable, you just pull, terminate, test, plug it in. It works. If you're going with fiber, you got to put transceivers on the end of that. You got to change those photons back over to electrons in order for most devices to be able to work. And you kind of said it already that the prices are coming down because you called it modification. I call it, there's no marketing term for it, and the name escapes me off the top of my head, but the more there's a demand, they make more of it, the price comes down. Kind of like VCRs. When they first came out, because how old I am, VCRs, right? When they first came out, they were $1,200, $1,300. Or look at more let's bring Irving into this conversation. DVD players. When they first came out, they were $500, $600, $700, $800. I was looking for one to replace one in the RV. They're like $25 now. $25. I was like, and you can do internet, surf Netflix, and there's a lot more stuff than that $600 one I bought many, many years ago. So transceivers, they're going through the same thing, right? So if you go with single mode, right, what is, in general terms, what's the cost of a transceiver? And because it's an active piece of equipment, does that put in another layer of potential problem where it might fail because of a power surge, because of a lightning strike or something?
Well, the quality of the transceivers is part of the question. Now, you can get gigabit single mode transceivers for $30 or less, and decent ones. And the failure rate of it, I would actually say, depending on the equipment, of course, the copper interfaces heat up more. So you actually have more heat related, particularly for AP8C transceivers. They run a lot hotter than the fiber equivalent. So they run cooler and obviously faster. So, from that perspective, and then, you've got to always design for failure, particularly if it's, if it's a critical link for sure, regardless of the medium on that. Yeah.
I got an interesting conversation. I call it a conversation, but it was really more of a fight back and forth with somebody on social media. Imagine that. Social media, there's negative people out there. Imagine
It still
that.
happens?
Yeah, really? Don't worry. You'll get big enough one day. You'll get that. Trust me. Trust me. And I did a video a while back on how copper cable in certain scenarios is cheaper than running a fiber cable, right? And I used, somebody said, why not just use Cat 8? So what I did was I looked up Category 8 cable, Category 8 connectors, and patch cords, priced it all out. And then I did a piece of fiber equivalent performance, priced it out with the transceivers. Cat 8 was cheaper for the shorter runs because Cat 8 can only go 30 meters, right? Where the fiber can go longer distances. So I reposted that video not too long ago, and somebody on there said, yeah, but you know what, in a data center, maybe you can speak this, Aaron, because you said you had some data center experience. Yeah, but if you got a data center full of a whole bunch of those, single mode and multi-mode transceivers, you're gonna get a bigger electric bill. I'm like, huh? What? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I don't buy that. No, it like I said, the transceivers, they run cooler. And it's more about the performance of the equipment overall. How much draw are you doing? What's the watts per? So I don't think it's a matter of that. And for data center use,
and it's pulling its power from the either the computer or the servers, right? I mean, it's not an external power source, right?
Yeah, it's the chassis of the overall equipment.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I was trying to beat my head when the guy said that. I was like, I don't remember any transceivers that had a separate power source.
No. Yeah. No. Now they're getting more advanced. They're actually called data processing units, DPUs. It's kind of like a GPU. So it actually does a lot more of the actual data calculations outside of the chassis. But if you're doing that kind of stuff, you're going to expect a high power bill to begin with.
Right. Yeah. Data centers are going to have a high power bill to begin with anyway, with the crack units and on all the fun stuff. Irving, from an installation point of view, how do transceivers make the installation more complex or easier? And which is your opinion?
I'd say it adds layer to complexity as far as the testing piece goes. I mean, you have to have the compatible transceivers for one another. If you're trying to install it, just that small, minute thing, and you'd be sort of chasing your tail for hours, shooting traces down the fiber, checking the equipment to make sure, and it's like, oh no, I just, have to swap the transceiver out for a compatible one. But besides that, I can't really say. I mean, I've never really dealt too much in copper, mainly fiber is my background, but just adding that little layer of, okay, I have to make sure that this is going to work, it's the same as sort of splicing the connectors on, making sure that that's, where it needs to be to make everything. So it's just a part of the process of the installation for it.
Gotcha. Aaron, I know this is probably you're the wrong person to ask this. What are the downsides to fiber?
Ooh. Well, there are some.
Whoa, I'm sorry, what? Say that again?
There are, and you can quote me, there are some. Always use the right tool for the job. But the handling of the fiber, a lot of people, they're not trained and are not properly installing fiber plant. Just touching the tips, dirt on it, it's like 70% of your failure issues. And, so they get a bad experience because when they patch that in, the link's not up. Oh, it's just fiber. If I just had a twisted pair port, it would work just fine. But outside of just the lack of comfort experience, when you got to run PoE, obviously, I mean, look at all the stuff we're doing, lighting and all kinds of amazing things with PoE, and it's awesome. And I support it. The integration of data and electric, IoT and all that smart building stuff, you know, I think for the most part, it's a better way to go. Now, I will say though, there are cables now that have basically an electrical wire running along with it. And so you can actually do the same thing.
Right.
But again, I mean, it's at another level. You know, we're talking complex campus installations. It's not really, I would say, ready for the mainstream. So yeah, I think I would say, you know, those are two like really realistic, practical reasons why, you know, twisted pair infrastructure makes sense.
Right.
Makes more sense. Yeah.
Irving, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. The biggest downside I'd say to fiber that I can see, you know, especially from my installer background, would be how fragile it could, you know, it is sometimes. Now, granted, we've gotten some great developments in the bend radius of certain fibers. You can sort of tie them up in the smallest circle you can, you know, maybe 4 inches or so. The clear curve, just messing around with it. But, you know, Aaron touched on it, the handling of the fiber, especially during installs, it's not treated well. You know, I've seen some contractors step on fiber cables and sort of just throw it, you know, across drop ceilings and stuff, slam it against certain things. And it's like, that fiber's probably broken now. You know, it is still glass within there, regardless of how easy it bends or how, you know, tough the outer jacket could be. It is still glass. There's still vulnerabilities, and it still has to be handled with care or with, you know, just proper procedure for the installation.
Do either of you guys have any experience with nanofiber?
We've gone down.
That's a brand, right? I've heard of it.
Well, you need to go back and watch
or do
my
you mean the
episode that
more
I just
generic,
published
like-
last Monday. Then, so I just did
Okay,
I just
all
did
right.
an episode where I interviewed Lee Renfro, the guy who invented nanofiber, and a designer. And it's fiber. You know again, I'm going to show my age. Payphones. You know, those phones on the wall that you got to put money into to make phone calls. You know that stainless steel thing that goes from the handset to the phone? They put fiber in that now. And it's supposed to be nearly almost bend insensitive. That you know, where you can almost tie it into a knot and stuff. So I was wondering if because you were talking
And
about
it's still armored too, right?
Oh, well, it's stainless steel armor, not aluminum armor. So when you look at most fiber optic cables, and I have a piece sitting here at my desk. I don't know why I have fiber sitting on my desk, but I do. That's aluminum.
It's
Aluminum-
okay. You can join us.
Aluminum is a soft metal. It can be easily broken, crushed, stepped on. I used to say, and I said this in the last episode too, I choose my words carefully, right? I used to say, armored fiber is indestructible. It's indestructible. And then I was teaching a class in Alabama, and somebody told me one of their installers pulled too hard on some armored fiber and caused it to unravel. So I don't say that anymore, right? Because aluminum is soft and it will come across. It will peel apart. The nanofiber is stainless steel, which is a lot harder.
That's nice.
A lot harder. So
Yeah.
you can have a lot more crush strength. But because it's harder, that's also going to increase the difficulty in stripping back the armor to terminate the fibers and stuff too. So, but there's some payback to that. So it was a really interesting show. I had a blast. I got them sending me a piece of armored fiber to connect to the new podcast studio. So,
Ooh.
watch out for videos on that, right? Let me.
Okay. Yeah. Now.
I want you guys to chime in on a debate. Preterm fiber or regular fiber and terminate yourself? Irving, you go first.
That's a good question.
Can we qualify that?
Yeah.
Inside plant or outside plant?
I was just going there, Aaron. I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that.
Well, you can get it in either or, but let's focus primarily on inside plant.
Okay, inside plant. Let's say if I was at a data center, I'll definitely use connectorized, just to cut down on the time of splicing. It also cuts down on, that termination can be a fault point as well, regardless of how well it's terminated. The housing of those fusion splices, if you're going to do that, that's also a thing you have to take into account with the rack space, with your rack space, and especially with how many terminations are you going to do. So it all depends on what you're doing. But my preference, if I'm in a data center, inside plant, definitely connectorized if I also had the budget for it. Connectorized fiber can get costly sometimes.
It can get costly, but I learned this as an estimator, when you compare preterm fiber, the whole package, the pulling the fiber, the labor, and stuff like that, and then you factor in against a discrete fiber where you're pulling the fiber, terminating the fiber, testing the fiber, armored fiber is cheaper. It is absolutely cheaper. And I think armored fiber for me, and I'll give you a chance to answer too, Aaron, in just a second. Armored fiber for me, if I'm a low voltage contractor and my guys are they're all copper guys. They're copper guys, and they do a little bit of fiber here and there. I might go with preterm fiber just because it's easy. It's one less headache they have to worry about, and it's easier for them. Aaron, what are your thoughts? Yeah. Preterm or discrete fiber?
I'm in agreement. I think the advantages of pre-terminated definitely outweigh the costs. It's like going back to the days of polishing in a lot of sense. Like it's just the advantage of ease and convenience, definitely outweighs it. And when you have like the newer like MPO connectors and things like that, which make a lot of sense. And the cartridges, between, the multi-fiber MPO cables, cartridges, and a lot of advanced distribution, high fiber count distribution, you don't want to be sitting there on a ladder in a rack trying to splice into some trays. It just doesn't make sense.
No fun.
Yeah. So
absolutely no fun. Man.
Yeah. And it's more accessible, and it gets more fiber, more places. So I'm for it.
Let's talk fiber tools.
Ooh.
Who makes the best fiber stripper? Irving, you go first.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I'm trying to start a debate here, ain't I?
Yeah, because we do have a bit of a little back and forth with at least our favorite strippers. Just the one we got with the toolkits. I think the FIS one I enjoyed using more. The Klein tool one is nice though. I like that.
Hold on. In fact, I can actually give you.
Oh,
the Ripley.
Man.
That's mine.
See, I don't got my toolkit with me. I'm lacking. I'm slacking. Oh, 2 against 1. No.
Oh, there you go. That is classic.
I got another set, but it's actually my Pelican case, and I'm not digging out my Pelican case in the middle of the thing.
Well, I'll tell you actually, I haven't yet had the chance to play with them, but these thermal strippers, Chuck.
Oh, that was my next question. Did they make a standalone thermal stripper?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It's clean. It's quick. There's a lot of problems that come from mechanical stripping and things. And
as an instructor, when I'm doing the fiber hands-on exercise, the part that jams me up every single time is people have a little bit of experience or no experience when it comes to stripping fiber, because they're worried about it. Oh my God, it's gonna break. Oh, by the way, if you're that's my next question. What's the appropriate way to get rid of fiber sharps?
Oh, right there.
For those who are listening, I held up a FIS fiber optic disposable thing. Do not use electrical tape rolled over backwards, please. Do not use soda bottles, soda cans, beer bottles, beer cans, Parmesan cheese cans, Tom Horton coffee cups, Tom Redmond snuff pouches. These are all things that people have told me in class that they've used. I'm telling you.
Wow. They are impressive in the quality of the strips that they're doing now, and it's the speed too. Like it's just, I think we're going to start to see a lot more of a movement toward thermal stripping. Yeah.
Well, there's a fusion splicer out there that does that. There's one of the fusion splicers has a thermal stripper built into it. I'm trying to buy one.
We actually debated that. Yes. So the issue with those was that if one part in that unit fails and you don't have manual backups, you're going to get set back during your splicing time.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the thermal stripper develops an issue, you can go old school and manually strip them again, but it will impact your production time and stuff. It's funny because when you said fusion splicer for, what'd you say it was $500? I was like, yeah, that's not the one I want.
No,
the one I want's like
let's be clear, I do not recommend those for production networks.
Well, that's actually a great point, because you know what? For the company out there that might fusion splice once, twice, 3 times a year, maybe the $500 one's the option there. But for somebody who's doing, fusion splice on connectors, fusion splicing daily, you might want to invest in that.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
What is so speaking of fusion splicers, which one's your favorite?
Oh,
Favorite brand? I got the Fujikoras.
yeah,
Okay.
AFL.
They make
Fusion
excellent
AFL,
fusion
yeah.
splicers.
That's what we use. That's what that's kind of our bread and butter.
You can't argue
But
with Fujikara.
no,
Well,
but there are a
there's
lot
so
of newcomers, uh, up and comers, and you know we looked at one. I can't remember which brand. It actually has GPS, and you can track where those fusion splicers are, and you can track the amount of splices that each tech is doing. It relays it back to a central
How does it
management
do? How,
database.
how does it do that?
It's got like
I
a
mean,
cell card in it, I guess. It can
there
do
was one with like it had
LTE,
Bluetooth a
Bluetooth
part of it where it's
to the
through a
phone,
phone app and
and then the
it'll
phone
just
app pushes
yeah
it up. Yeah.
sends it right back.
Tells you when it needs maintenance and reminds you got to clean them. Like people, you got to, you know, it's like brushing your teeth. Like you got to keep your fusion splicers clean. And so, you know, they nag you. Yeah, there's some really interesting advancements coming into the splicer world.
well, not according to the guy on that Facebook page. You said fiber's fiber.
But
You
fusion
mean
splicers are different.
no, it's still fiber. It's still fiber. So let me ask you this: what do you think is the most predominant connector out there today? LC,
Oh,
SC, what?
mm,
I'll say LC
yeah,
right now.
LT UPC.
LC UPC. Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a good reason for that.
Okay, you got to
And that's
expand on that now.
okay. Well, the transceivers, that's what they accept. So if your transceiver's doing it, people are buying LC UPC, and then they're buying all of the, you know, patch panels, all LC UPC. You know, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think that's going to change for a while, honestly.
Probably won't. Probably
Well,
won't.
well, the LCs are actually getting smaller from what I'm seeing, and you know the
Yes, that's
couplers are
true.
actually able to maneuver a lot differently, so a lot more
Change the
maneuverability,
polarity. Yeah.
change the polarity for it. So it's changing. I'm pretty sure it's going to stay LC, but
Yeah.
they're advancing with some cool stuff in there
The
as
uni
well.
boots, it's
The
all
uni
in
boots,
one.
there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still
Yeah.
see any ST connectors out there?
Just the other day we did, I believe.
Yeah, we were just on site just yesterday. And multi-mode, school district multi-mode, I think it was Ohm 2 and you know, twist on, yeah.
That's
Oh
another
yeah.
comment. That's another argument on social media is STs versus SCs versus LCs. How about MUs? Do you see any MUs?
No, not really.
Yeah, they're even smaller than the LCs. They're real small. They're
Yeah.
big in data centers.
They're
Well,
coming
before
out.
MTP started really kicking in, you know.
Yeah, I think the really small ones like that are just like they're the hyperscaler data centers, things like that. Really high density port stuff. Yeah, yeah. But
So
I
let me
do
ask
like
you.
the ones that have the trap door that protect.
Oh
We saw
yeah,
some FD APC that
yeah.
have a little door on it for the premises side to keep people from touching it.
There are several manufacturers that make, instead of doing adapter panels, they do cassettes that have the door on them. And most of those,
Yeah.
those a lot of people think, well, if they got the door on that, I can't use a VFL to verify that circuit. On most of those cassette ones, that door, when you hit it with a VFL from the other side, it'll illuminate the door. So that way you don't have to open up the door to see if it's if
I
it's
like
if it's live or not.
That's
So,
nice.
yeah. So what future plans do you have for the podcast? What exciting new things?
Well, currently we're trying to branch out more into the like multi-domain of ITC. You know, the routing and switching side, networking, security. I know Aaron's been working on his networking lab for a little bit now. I'm just started diving in more into the security side, so I'll be trying to make some content at that. So we are mainly focused super fiber nerds with the podcast, but we also want to introduce a lot more of our skills and talents and, sort of the process on how we got there, our journey, and any more resources that we can give to the, our audiences.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I appreciate both of you guys coming on today. It's a pleasure having you guys on, and good luck with your channel, man.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're the standard bearer that we look up to, man.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. Make sure you go check out their YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in Fiber Nerds, and subscribe to them. Tell them Chuck sent you. Till next time, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.